to the kitchen, pour myself a cup of ambition, yawn and stretch and try to come to life.
Hey. I think we've now scared everybody away, even though that was a nice tribute.
Dolly Parton died.
Yes, I know. That was a nice tribute, but it was super loud.
It's good. It's supposed to be.
I'm surprised you weren't dancing around and wearing
No,
your cowboy hat.
I was going to, but that's really sad. So
yeah,
really a bummer. It's a national treasure there. Gotta figure that she was doing something special if the president said put the flags down at half staff, huh?
Oh, I didn't see that. Okay.
Yeah. So my oldest son works in LA and lives up by the Hollywood Bowl in the Hollywood Hills, and he has a little dog named Dolly. So he and Dolly went down. Jesse and Dolly went down to the Sunset Boulevard to Dolly Parton's star on Hollywood Walk of Fame there, and he took a picture of Dolly, his dog, next to the star. So it was something. So anyway,
there must be a lot going on there, I would assume.
Oh, I can only imagine what it is now. He did it like right away after it was announced, or like right when he got home from work. So
okay.
Yeah. Anyways, I don't know that you're a big Dolly Parton fan, but hey, it was talked about in their house.
She has quite a history. She was one of 12 children.
And what a business person, right? I mean,
yeah.
How many country stars cross over into all the different things she's done? I mean, late in her career, like 5 years ago, she was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, right? Because she the crossover work, and then she has an amusement park.
Yeah.
Did you know that?
I did.
Dollywood.
Yeah.
Pigeon Forge, Tennessee. Have you been there?
I have not. No, I have not. I need to put it on my list. Have you been there?
I have not been inside the park, but I've been right by it when I was at the Smoky Mountains for a little rest.
All right.
So, been right by there.
Well, let's get on. But yes, that was a nice tribute, even though it was very loud. We'll see how John edits that out.
I can do it lower. Do you want me to do it again?
No, that's fine. I think we're good.
You sure?
I think we're good. Yeah.
Okay. So the big question is, have you recovered from last week?
Well, you know what? I don't understand. We're at episode 203, and I could swear last week was episode 200. But
well, what was it again that we described it as last week?
A celebration, I guess.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So
it
was great. If you haven't listened to it, or if you're listening and you haven't listened to it, it's well worth it. Not because of you or I, but because of everybody else that was on there.
Our marketing director, Dana, and I were talking about this earlier in the week. And I think maybe you and I talked about it as well. As Mike Marks made an interesting statement early in the show. And he said, even on one of the topics is what he started with, was he said, we could talk for 2 hours on this topic. And then I think later Mike said that we could go all day. And if you think about it, as I was listening to some snippets that have come out, with that group of people, we probably could have gone 4 or 5 hours and not run into any slow spots or boring times at all through it. Right? It was just powerful conversations, and everybody looked so handsome in their Around the Horn podcast Aloha shirts. We had a couple of them that we had to do different colors because of the different sizes that we needed. We tried our best, but those are pretty good shirts I got, huh?
They were nice, yeah.
Everybody wore, and we got Dan Schubert out of a jacket and a tie.
Yeah, well, so there you go.
Yeah. So anyways, like as Tom said, if you're listening in with us today, and if you didn't get a chance to listen to last Friday's episode, it was the celebration of our 200th episode, because we had done the 200th show a couple weeks prior to that. But what a great cast that we had with us, Steve from Infor and Dan from NAW, and on and on and on and on, and just great insights. Tom, I said this before. I'm going to say it quickly today before we move too far, but I'm just grateful, that we've been able to come where we are, because it's people like that, or Bob that just made a comment here in the thread, that come regularly. But when you can get the cast of characters that we had last week to take a little bit of time out and devote to us as a large group, and be willing to adjust their schedules, because a few of those guys had to make some pretty significant adjustments to their schedules because matching that caliber of people up is not simple. And I had a couple of them say, just tell me what you decided on, I'll make it work. And that's a testament, I think, to what we've been able to accomplish so far. So anyways, let's see if we can keep it up. The thing that was scary for me out of last week's episode was I think everybody there made some reference or comment to when we all get together again for the 300th show. I'm like,
oh, what else are we going to do for the next 100 Fridays? It's like, of course we're going to have a 300. You get to 2, you got to get to 3, you know?
No, to get to 3, you have to get to 2.
That's right. But if you get to 2, you got to get to 3. You got to keep going. So
do you?
Yeah.
Okay. I love the idea. I mean, you might have to pull me along.
In fact, you're going to be hearing, people are going to be seeing more of us, I think, over the next year.
That is correct. We've got more stuff coming. Lots of Around the Horn 2.0 shows planned for next year, maybe even a couple later this year. Around the Horn 2.0 is when we do more of a traditional podcast, interview style, conversation style with individuals. Lots of those to come. And then some other kind of exciting stuff we're going to be doing with another one of the industry leaders. We're going to do some shows with them too. So it's kind of exciting. We'll be announcing that here very shortly as well. So anyways, we should probably get ready to dive in. I'll hit the housekeeping stuff, try and go fast like you try and go, Tom. I'm Kevin Brown. This is Tom Burton. We get together every Friday morning here on LinkedIn Live, YouTube Live, and Facebook Live. If you happen to be listening to us on the recorded podcast, which hundreds and hundreds, if not thousands now, people do every week, and averaging somewhere between 6 and 8 different countries. By the way, Tom, I do next week. One of the things I wanted to address, I'll hit pause there for a second, is we have some great listeners and even people that come to the live show from France and Spain and Germany regularly, Poland, Romania, Sweden, Norway, and a lot of different EU and European countries. And we don't really talk much about the news as it relates to distribution in those countries. And I've been kind of starting to think about needing to do that. So next week we're off, right? Next week we're off.
That's right.
But the following, we said we get together every Friday unless someone's on a planned vacation, on an airplane, or in the hospital. And I am proud to announce, happy, excited to announce you are going to be on a planned vacation.
Oh, I thought you were going to say Tom's going to be in the hospital.
You are. I love that you're going to go breathe for a few days. You are they don't make harder workers than you. And then people say I'm a hard worker, but not compared to you. So you're going to take a planned vacation. But when we reconvene 2 weeks from today, I've got a little bit of an announcement to make about covering some of the news in Europe and so forth, and got a little video clip that will help us understand. And I was going to do it today, but we got so much to cover. We'll do it when you're back from your trip. I think it'll be great. So as I mentioned, we do this every week. If you're listening on the recorded podcast on Apple, Spotify, wherever that might be, we would love it if you would hit the subscribe button, leave us a review as well. But one of the things, if you're listening in the recorded version, is you don't get to see these handsome faces, nor do you get to see the newsletter that will be up in front of us in just a moment here. That newsletter is called Around the Horn and Wholesale Distribution. We're somewhere between 12 and 13,000 people getting it now. And every week it can be accessed through LinkedIn. You could find us there. If you don't get it and you would like to, you can simply go to our website for the podcast, www.aroundthehornpod.com, and sign up for it there and make it very easy on yourself. Plus, either of those locations, you can see the past recorded episodes as well. If you're listening on YouTube, which we love that audience, which is growing, hit that subscribe button, hit the bell. That'll give you a reminder when we go live. And you can do the same thing on LinkedIn. Certainly follow the show there. And love it if you'd even follow the company that sponsors this show, which is a company that Tom and I work for, LeadSmart Technologies. You can hit the follow button there as well to get some of the updates that we do. Our sponsor, LeadSmart, is the company that has developed the wholesale distribution and manufacturing industry's very first enterprise growth platform. And, Tom, I was describing this to somebody the other day. 25 years ago, there was no such thing as, I shouldn't say that. 40 years ago, there was no such thing as a ERP or a CRM. They contact managers and MRPs and different things like that. But those acronyms have really fit and really helped our industry grow. But we're in this place now where we've got so much data available to us, and never before have wholesale distributors and manufacturers been able to accelerate the growth within their organization, serve their customers better, understand their business and their people better by bringing siloed data together and using AI against that siloed data. And what people are seeing right now is there's a little bit of a threat for a lot of businesses that if they don't accelerate their business through using technology tools, they have that risk of getting left behind. We're hearing a lot of people talk about that at the shows and events we go to. So an enterprise growth platform is a place where we can use a true platform where we can access all the data from across your business, from your data warehouse or data lake, maybe a SharePoint set of documents, all of your ERP, marketing automation, e-commerce, and other data sources, and bring that into one unified platform. And on a single unified platform, now we can apply AI and advanced technology tools to give prescriptive guidance. What should we do next? What's the risk in our business? Where are our opportunities? And we can take action on that by even sending push notifications to phones versus waiting for people to log into software. So the world is changing fast. LeadSmart is changing fast along with it. If your company is looking to accelerate your growth, understand your customers, your team, and your business better, we would love to talk with you. So that's our plug for the sponsor that we have for the show. It's 200 episodes that LeadSmart's been paying the bills for this show. So we're certainly appreciative of that. So what did I miss there, Tom? Anything before we dive into the news?
No, I think we're ready to rock and roll.
So the Fed is conspiring today in Montana, is it?
Jackson Hole.
Wyoming. Sorry, Jackson Hole, right?
Yeah.
So what do you think is going to come out of that?
Well, it's already happened. So the speech happened this morning.
So like 7 o'clock Pacific, right?
I believe so. Yeah.
So 8 o'clock Mountain.
Basically he said that despite, the fact that the inflation numbers were better in July and June, we're still a long way from accomplishing the goal, and that we're really not making significant headway towards achieving the goal, which we all know the goal is Kevin's 2%. And so that, and
he's not listening to me, is he?
Yeah. At first, the market kind of reacted a little bit to the downside, kind of thinking, oh, okay, he's using this as a foundation to basically say, hey, we're going to have to raise rates in order to do something about this. But then the market, at least before the show when I had looked, had recovered quite a bit, actually. Well, now it's down again. So it's kind of roller coastering all over the place. So not sure what the market thinks about that. But I did look at Poly Market, and
I knew you would.
And there was a significant drop. So if you notice here, right, the drop from I know it's a little hard to read.
We'll share with the audience that's listening what you're doing here. You're showing
so
us
this is the Poly Market. This is these are the odds, quote unquote, of the Fed decision in December, whether they're going to increase or decrease. The decrease dropped by 37%, and the increase increased increased to 21% to a 49% chance of an increase in September.
So
basically 50 flip, right?
Yeah, so I was going to say a 1% difference between no change and an increase. So
That's
your thinking in our discussion last week was we should see a decrease. I would love to see that. Don't know enough to argue the points on it. But Alex Shasovsky, that we know and love and trust, he was pretty confident of at least one. I think he was describing increase. And I thought he said, if I remember what Alex was saying on that, was the likelihood of that was September. So
now if we look at in October, it definitely drops in October, and it definitely drops in December, although December is definitely higher than October. But yes, September is, at least at the Poly Market, has got it just changed in the last 30 seconds.
It's live, right? Yep.
So it's now 51%.
Well, maybe in the 17 minutes that we've been talking here, there's been some announcement or some hiccup of some sort.
Yeah, they're just listening to our conversation. But nonetheless, look, I still think my personal opinion, which is worth not a hell of a lot, but my
Well, it's
personal
worth what you
opinion
pay.
is
It's worth what you pay for it coming to a free
that's right.
show.
That's right. I think increasing does nothing, very little good, and potentially a lot of I think there's a lot more downside than there is upside.
So
And
Tom,
but
go ahead. I'm sorry.
well, but the argument is that even though the inflationary numbers are the result predominantly of supply side issues, right? Lack of fuel or reduction in fuel driving prices up and so forth, is that consumers are A, continuing to spend, and B, there have been other price increases indirectly affected by fuel, and that there's a expectation that those price increases will not come down regardless of whether fuel costs come down. Right?
Yep.
That's the logic of it. But I have a hard time seeing that by increasing rates 25% is going to change any of that. And if anything, it's going to affect the stock market. So maybe it does reduce the wealth factor a bit on things. But I just don't see a lot of upside. But that doesn't, it's like they're so limited on the tools they have. They may just do it just because, hey, I got to throw some water on the fire and this is all I've got to do it. And so,
Well, I think you're spot on there, Tom. I think this is like, hey, look, there's enough pressure. We've got people thinking that, this is what we should do. And man, how would I describe this better? Maybe a better way to say it is, I think to your point, 25 basis points in this is not going to change anything. And that's could be how they're just looking at it and saying, well, let's see what happens. You've said the opposite. I would almost suggest they're saying the opposite of you. They're saying, hey, how much damage could come from that? If we raise by a quarter point, you're saying, historically, and I would bend to your side of this, and I think everybody knows I'm not afraid to disagree with you on this, or you with me, is if you're going to take a risk and make a change, take a risk to the thing that could really spike productivity and do something to move the needle potentially on helping business grow versus the consumer side. Because what the consumers, to your point earlier, have been saying for how many days, how many years now that we've been through this is, I'm going to keep spending. Now, there is a point that they're not going to be able to spend anymore because credit cards are going to be capped and they're not getting raises and everything that goes with that. But the consumers, they're doing, minor heartbeats of ups and downs. They're not pulling back, which is what the whole point of this, if you're going to raise rates, the idea behind that is going to be, say, make it painful to spend money. Is that a fair, simple
I think that's part
description?
of it. It's painful to spend money. And then the downstream effect is that, sellers will reduce prices, have more discounts, whatever, in order to make up for that reduction in spending. But I don't think, as I said, I don't think 25 points is going to do it. So if that's really what you're trying to do, raise it a point. It's like, stop fooling around with it, right? If you really want to hand grenade it, then hand grenade it.
Doggone it. That's exactly where I was going. It's like, if you're serious and you think that you need to hand grenade this to really get spending to slow down and prices to come down, then do something meaningful. I was going to say a half point. Right.
But I think in their mind, well, we have a squirt gun here and we'll squirt a little water on the fire and keep it from, or at least it's symbolic, right? We're symbolically going, hey, we're not going to let this fire get out of control.
We have a 1,000-acre wildland fire. We send one engine.
Yeah.
Right. There's an interesting statement though that he made this morning, and he said, we must be confident that underlying inflation is moving to our objective clearly and at a sufficient speed. Otherwise, we have work to do. So that's I think that statement in itself backs up what we're just describing here, right? In this setting is that if it's not moving at a sufficient speed, do something that's meaningful.
Yeah.
Right. Take tighten up your belt, right? Stretch your muscles and go do something. It almost feels like it's just and it's interesting. I guess again, we just pretend to be economists on Friday mornings, right? What's interesting to me with that is that again, it'd be interesting to go back and look at history. I would think a quarter point decrease probably has a lot more impact on driving the economy than a quarter point increase would do to lower inflation.
Potentially, but I don't
know.
remember their job isn't to drive the economy. Their job is to maintain inflation and to make sure that there's jobs, right? Or that they're managing the job situation.
Decreases impact the economy.
Right. So that's not their responsibility is mandate, to go put a firecracker under the economy. But yes, I think if you were to look at things holistically, and if you look at the greatest good for the greatest number, I would say yes, that a 25% decrease overall would be, I think, better overall, especially long term or intermediate term, than an increase. But they're in their silo, right? You talk about silos. They're in their silo, and that's not the silo that they're trying to deal with. That's there.
Maybe they need an enterprise growth platform.
They do. They need an enterprise growth platform for all of this economic stuff, right? To not so operate in such silos. So I was saying it was a long shot, but I was willing to bet on a decrease. That I wouldn't bet on that anymore. I'm not, I've lost my money on that, but I knew it was a long shot to begin with. But yeah, it looks like it's a coin flip for increase at this point. So
we don't have any bets going right now, do we?
Not that I'm aware of.
I don't think so. So I want a steak. You want some tacos, right? Our friend at the Capital Group, Rhonda Gill, came to us at the Affiliated Distributors Functional Success Summit, and before we started our conversation about our technology, she wanted to know if anybody had bought any tacos or any steaks. Having been a long-time listener here, so that was pretty.
We just have these IOUs, yeah.
Yeah, right. Okay, I'm guessing we might have those for a long time. So, anyways, so a little bit of an adjustment. Continue with the economy. We had the inflation gauge shows core prices rose 3.3% annually in July. Right. So now we've got consumer prices, and this article kind of ties into what Bob was saying here is the big difference between B2B and B2C, right? Is B2C is driven by want and B2B is driven by need, right? And that's an interesting, kind of interesting thought about the world that we work within and live within in the B2B world is that this is the stuff that's driving every B2B is driving every, you think about it. We had Dan Schubert from National Association of Wholesalers and Distributors on last week. With us on the celebration show. Their calculations are distribution contributes $8.4 trillion to the U.S. economy, which is nearly 1/3 of U.S. GDP. So Bob's talking about need here, right? If you want to have a water glass at the restaurant you're going to go to with your spouse tonight, or you want to have some safety equipment to keep you safe working in your yard or whatever it might be, or at your business, I should say, is you need wholesale distribution in place, and those are needs, not wants. So it's an interesting component of that. So it's just going to be interesting to see. I just feel like we're just continuing. It's almost, Tom, like the entire history of us doing this show, the economy's just been at this simmer point, right? Not flat, not boiling, but just kind of this, oh, look, consumer prices up, consumer prices down, manufacturing production up. But he's just back and forth, which is just it makes it difficult for big growth.
Because we talked about what was in the show last week, right? Perpetual chaos, right? So
that was a Mike Marks thing, right?
Yeah. So there is a lot of perpetual chaos. There's a lot of things that are impacting the inflation numbers, whether it's tariffs, whether it's, the conflicts, all those types of things. There's a lot of different variables to factor into it. Look, I tend to agree. I think it's a hard. If I wouldn't want to be in worse shoes, pounding the table, going, we're going to get it down to 2%. I don't know how they do that.
No.
I think you could raise the rates 3%, and it's not going to do that, or 3 basis.
Oh, wow.
It's just,
Okay. Well, that's
it's
just flipping the tables on that'd be horrible to try and do something to that matter.
It wouldn't be as horrible as you may think, because if you look at the bond market right now, which is high, right? I think we're at the 10-year is almost 4.7, and the 30-year is over 5, right? And the bond market is already factoring in, and as you know, right, the bond market is what influences mortgage rates and car loans and all those types of things, and to a large degree, credit card and so forth. So it's already operating on its own trajectory, regardless of what the Fed is doing, right? So I don't know that even if they were to raise rates significantly, let's say they raised by 2 points just for whatever, would that really change the bond market that significantly compared to what it is right now? Probably not, right? So I think we're already absorbing a lot of the expectation for higher prices and so forth long term through the bond market. I don't know. I mean, look, they're not going to. I think politically that would be a complete disaster for them to do something like that. But yes, I think throwing a hand grenade into if they really believe, right? If you're sitting and you're one of these governors and you really believe that the tools you have can bring down inflation, which I don't believe they can, but if you believe that, then use them. And I don't think that's going to happen. So even a 1/4 point change, yes, it'll affect, certainly rates in some areas or whatever, but we're already feeling the effect through the, bond market and the other things that are operating on their own trajectory.
Yeah. It's we're in an interesting time, Tom. Let's kind of shift into this, kind of moving along. We don't talk too much about political stuff other than kind of how that impacts the supply chain, but an article here from Captain, which is where we get most of our supply chain articles, which is just a great source of, well, if you're interested in anything maritime, right, what's going on with ships and supply chain movement and so forth, gcaptain.com is great. Just being a little bit of a nautical geek, I'll say myself, as I read probably too much of their stuff, but the article that we plugged in here was about the Trump administration launching new Iran sanctions campaign. So, last weekend was Secretary Besson said, okay, the squeeze is coming and it's coming hard. So it was announced, but they hadn't really done much of anything. But this morning, they basically put the squeeze on, I think it was a bank in the UAE, a big one, and one, I think, somewhere in Europe that is moving Iranian funds around and basically saying, hey, I haven't dug too far into this. You might have some additional feedback, but basically the idea is they're going to go look at this and look across the world and say, if you're helping Iran move money anywhere in the world and you think you're going to be allowed to take advantage of US markets and so forth, game over, right? When you stop supporting Iran, you can get back access into the benefits of, they called it D-Day, actually, economic D-Day. And so it's going to be interesting to see how this plays out. If it has any impact on this show, we don't want to talk about the political side too much of it, but there is a major supply chain concern by having the struggles in the Hormuz Strait. So it'll be interesting if any of that does anything of significance.
Yeah, I didn't look into today before the show, and we didn't really talk about it last week.
Yep.
What is the status of the Iran conflict, right? What is the flavor of the week? I don't know if this is now the next sort of, strategy that's being incorporated as a way to get them to come back and negotiate, meaningfully, or what, right? There's been all the threats of we're going to annihilate your infrastructure, and we've had all kinds of threats. I don't know if this is yet another artillery into the equation. Just got to say I haven't looked at it enough.
Well, I mean, the idea is basically it's, and I think this is the alternative to boots on the ground, ultimately, right,
Yeah,
is there's no support for boots on the ground, but
sure.
Joe American that, on Main Street in Iowa, does not have or feel an impact when there's sanctions on banking companies that they've never heard of in countries that they probably couldn't find on a map, right? No offense to that, that guy, but it doesn't. He probably does have a concern about his son or his nephew or his neighbor having to go pick up a rifle and get off a plane or a ship and go fight a war. And so this is, I think, warfare, economic warfare, right?
Yeah, no, I get it. It's just another strategic in the war, right? Another, and it sounds like it is, but again, I haven't done enough homework to kind of see how this all fits into the bigger
So,
strategy.
so you've got this shadow fleet of tankers that has been able to get through, right?
Yeah,
That are from different countries and flagged
yeah,
from different countries, and they've been able to get through, and that's moving Iranian oil as well. And it's that kind of, they call it the shadow fleet, I believe. That's the big squeeze is put on it. Now, the president said earlier in the week that they've successfully cleared the Hormuz Strait of mines, which is pretty big deal. Even if they've got half of them gone, that's great. But now you start putting this economic pressure from banking. You stop these shadow fleets that are leaving and so forth, and basically you're fighting an economic war. And then the question is, what? How long can you hold on if you don't have access to, whether
right.
you're look? What would happen to our company if we didn't have access to our lines of credit and our banking relationships? And if those things got cut off, right, things change pretty quickly. So it's just a shift in where the pressure is coming from.
It's interesting because if you look at the country, right? If you look at the general opinion of the population, people want this conflict, quote unquote, ended, right? They want the war or the conflict ended.
Mm-hmm.
And we haven't done a good job of being able to end that, right? There's been tons of false starts, or hey, it's ending, or we're going to have a resolution, and then it's not, right? All the way through. Obviously, there's an expectation that with the midterms coming up in November, that could have a large impact on the results of the
Mm-hmm.
midterms if the conflict is still occurring. So it's interesting to see if they're kind of throwing in, going at things with different angles, right? Other than the force angle entirely, to see if we can end this conflict in a reasonable
Right.
time frame, or at least get to the point where you can clearly see light at the end of the tunnel. Because
Mm-hmm.
all these other ones, maybe you saw light at the end of the tunnel, and then that light switched off like 30 seconds later. So
Right. Yep. Yep.
anyway,
Yeah.
I'll
So
try and be more prepared next week or next time.
sorry, I threw that curveball at you. We didn't talk
Oh,
about that at all. But
yeah,
they put this squeeze. Basically, they put sanctioned a major bank in Dubai and another one in the UAE. And basically, it's it says they. Let's see. This is. I'll just read this to you real quick. I just looked this up. It says cutting off the Bank Misr UAE. Basically came back to U.S. Correspondent banking access was cut off after an estimated proceeds of roughly 1.8 billion over 100 companies linking to Iranian shadow banking networks. So you've got all these banking networks that Iran's moving these dollars through, and they've got a handful of them that are supporting all of those. And basically, U.S. Department of Treasury, it says. Called it their escalated operation economic outcast by targeting those and shutting down access to markets and so forth. So it's going to be interesting. So it's I guess the challenge with this is, as I look at it, is we have my friend Reza that drives me to the airport. Our acupuncturist that Darlene and I go to, and the owner of the French restaurant that we went to Wednesday night for our anniversary are all Persian and all originally from Iran. And every one of them says none of this is going to do anything good for the people of Iran until they get rid of having an Ayatollah in place. So really what all this is about is it's not bringing any benefit to the people of Iran. It's bringing it's bringing that nuclear threat down, which is beneficial to the rest of the world. So hopefully this stuff is all over soon, and the Strait of Hormuz is opened up, and farmers in the U.S. and the rest of the world can get access to the things they need for fertilizer, and fuel prices go down. And man, I tell you what, Tom, I was driving down the street the other day, and let's see, Sunday will be 2 full months of me being an EV driver, and I haven't paid attention to fuel prices. And I looked at premium fuel was over $6 by my house the other day.
Yeah, yeah.
So is it next week or the week after you think you're going to order your Tesla?
I don't know. We'll have to see.
I want you to say,
I tried to help you this morning by working on some contract stuff so that we could speed that along.
When I complete that part of that and you get the things that we've agreed to, if it happens next week, is a Tesla getting ordered?
Probably, yeah. Yeah.
Probably. Okay. All right. We have witnesses, hundreds, if not thousands of them this morning. I'm looking for something more firm than probably.
Okay. Probably is what you're going to get for the moment. So.
Okay. All right. I just know that Mrs. Brown is going to not let you up on that one. She's going to to let you in on the joke. Tom's been contemplating buying an EV. I have been contemplating at the same time. I pulled the trigger. Tom said that there needed to be an event within our company. That event is imminent. Now he's starting to, you can feel the vacillating happening. And we were at dinner, Tom and my wife and I, and out in front of the restaurant, the patio we were sitting on, I think there was, what do we count, like between the Teslas parked in front of us. After that, I thought we counted in like 5 minutes, like 30 Teslas go by, and my wife put you on the spot and said, go get it. And you threw a gauntlet down, and we're pretty close to that gauntlet being achieved. So Bob just asked, he said, are you ordering a Tesla? He didn't question is if you order a Tesla, he said, are you, which is the affirmation of this action happening, for fun or for ROI? Can I answer that?
Take a stab at it, sure.
Yes, is the answer.
I would agree. Yeah.
Yes. Right. Tom deserves a new car. Tom drives a nice car. He has 2 cars, but Tom deserves a new car, a luxury car, and he would see the ROI because Tom lives, were you about 100, 120 miles, something like that from the office?
Yeah, about that. Yeah.
Yeah. And you're coming down
120
to our
hard miles, 120 hard miles.
Yeah. So self-driving would be beneficial for you.
Yes.
Right?
Yes, it would. It would very much.
So that's
especially on the later drive home, like driving home late in the evening or whatever, just being able to put it on self-driving would be a good ROI. Yes.
Do you think you could actually sit quietly in that seat and just let the car do its thing?
I could. Yeah. I've tried the self-driving. I've used it before. I drove it in my neighbor's car, and it was in the pouring rain. Mm-hmm. And it worked. It worked really, really well. I was very impressed.
So you're thinking just before you leave the office to head home on Wednesday nights, when you often do, or Thursdays, we just have a couple of cocktails over an early dinner, and then you let the car take over?
Pretty much, yeah.
Okay. All right. So there's Bob's answer.
But you still can't. You cannot drink. You can't drink and drive, right?
Yeah,
or be in the passenger seat, right?
Yeah. Good. So let's move back ahead to and continue down the international.
What's a hard mile? I'll tell you a hard mile, Bob, is when you have to go through downtown Los Angeles and the 405 and the 101. That is a hard mile. That's a hard fought mile.
So I'm sitting in South Orange County, California, a little bit closer to San Diego than LA. And Tom lives about 40 minutes or so, depending on traffic, could be 2 hours north of LA. And there is no real option to get between. Let me rephrase that.
You have to go through the wall of fire, as I call it. You have to go through the wall of fire, right? Without
a boat or a helicopter or a plane, there is no option, but other than going through LA for us to get between where we both are. So from that standpoint, it's there's no option. Tom has to go through that. We have an office here in South Orange County for LeadSmart in Laguna Niguel, which is I guess I'm the lucky one out of all this. I live about 2.5, 3 miles from our office, and everybody else has a little bit longer
Yeah,
drive.
you
But
have two
Tom
and a
has
half easy. He has easy miles. I have hard
two, two and
miles.
a half, two and a half or 3 easy miles. Yes.
Right, right.
So when Tom and I go out to dinner before he drives back, we usually are at somewhere that's only about a mile from my house. So I've got the good end of that, but that's okay. So Tom deserves, in answer to Bob's question, Tom deserves to treat himself to a luxury electric vehicle, which will, based upon Tom's financial mindset and his scientific mindset, will also provide a return on investment. It also, there's an ROT factor too for you with that, the self-driving.
ROT?
Return on time.
How's that?
I expect you to have your laptop open and working if
No,
it's in
it
self-driving
won't
mode.
work. No, it doesn't work. In fact, if you, in a Tesla,
Yeah, I know, it's watching your eyes, right?
it's watching you, and if it sees like you're looking at your phone or whatever while
Yeah.
you're doing that or doing anything that's not, it will basically stop the self-driving or punch
Alert
you in
you.
the face or do something. Yeah. So,
Yeah.
so, but there is, I guess, ways to get around that. I guess there's ways to hijack
think
around that, but probably not the best idea.
I think what LeadSmart needs to do is buy you a pair of the Meta heads-up display glasses, and then you control that by moving your wrist. Steve Levy's got them, and I was having lunch with Steve from Infor in Washington D.C. a while back, and he was looked like he was having a seizure at lunch, where the way his hand was moving a little bit, and he was doing stuff to look something up on his glasses. And so we'll get you those, Tom, and then you just keep working. Just keep working.
Keep-a-thon. All right.
I don't know that anybody cares about you getting a new car, except for, this fun discussion. And really all I'm looking for is you to make the commitment in a recorded podcast that says, I am buying a Tesla.
I told you probably. All right, let's move on to the next thing. We need to get out of, we need to get into another section here.
Well, we need to talk a little bit about tariffs. So listen, this Canadian thing, US thing, we have 3 articles related to that. This is a pretty significant issue. And I felt that in a conversation we were having with one of our great customers in Canada, very, very large distributor, we were just talking about being in an event or not that's going to be here in California later this fall. And they're not sure they're bringing a whole contingency, and they probably are stuck with a couple of their executives being there. But I don't know, was that the comment that was made in that call, Tom? Did that surprise you?
Very much so. No, very much so.
It seemed like it threw you off.
Yeah, it did throw me off. And it wasn't a business decision, right? It was more of it's
a protest.
Right? It was a protest and kind of an emotional perspective. I'm not saying it's right or wrong. It wasn't a business decision like, hey, it doesn't make sense for me to make the trip or whatever the case may be.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it was definitely a protest. I don't know if that would have much relevance related to that show and so forth, right? It's not like protesting the show is going to change the situation, but I understand the point. I understand the logic of it and whatever. And it is, out of all of these tariffs, right? I understand, there's so much philosophical difference, right, between China and the US politically and everything like that. But it seems like we could get our act together with Canada and somehow
Mexico.
Figure out, and Mexico, right? The North American, right?
Mm-hmm.
The North American countries that have similar views, similar, and I make that as a broad statement, right? Statements in terms of politics and views and democratic capitalist countries, that we can't figure something out. Yeah. And it just seems to be a constant issue.
Well, so there's a good article that we posted there from manufacturing.net. There's another one. I'll hit on 3. The second one's from Mark Brohan. And I tell you what, Mark's a friend, great guy, Chicago guy, actually a Michigan guy originally. Mark has swam around Mackinac Island, Michigan. can't even imagine
Right.
that. It's brilliant. I mean, what a tangent that was. But I was having lunch with him one time in Chicago, and he was telling me about that. But anyways, prolific writer, really insightful. He previously worked with an e-commerce related company. We published a lot of what he wrote there, but I think the stuff he's doing for Ian Heller and the distribution strategy. By the way, I was funny enough, we were talking about Lake Michigan. I was texting with Ian yesterday about another article. I just sent him a note, and he and his wife and his brother-in-law and sister-in-law were sitting on the shores of Lake Michigan watching the sunset when I was texting with Ian last night. But Mark wrote a great article here. It's at distributionstrategy.com. It says U.S. tariffs on Canadian goods take effects as distributors lean on pricing. And just a kind of a good recap of the shift in all of this. There's a chart that actually goes through the timeline of what's did Lily send us that one, Tom, to use? Yeah, this timeline is pretty kind of interesting, as what's just happened throughout the course of the year, right? So February 20th was the IEEPA tariff.
This is a little hard to read, but if you want to go through it.
Yep. It's I'll just hit a couple of them. February 24th, then there was the global surcharge put in under Section 122. May 26th, Court of International Trade strikes down 122. June 11th, federal court stays ruling tariffs continue. We should actually save this for just conversations in general, right? But this just kind of goes through. And then August 19th, Section 338, Canada tariffs delayed for 3 days, which is when the big discussions went into place, and they couldn't come out of that. And now those took effect. And basically now we're at 50%, and Canada is saying, all right, whatever, 50%. But what we might not think about is the impact, which the next article that's were published there, which is coming from Industrial Distribution, about U.S. manufacturing remains deeply dependent on Canadian trade. And it really goes through, it kind of talks about, it has a subheading that says Canada fuels American industry. Canada is the second largest U.S. trading partner after Mexico, and energy is at the heart of it. The two countries exchanged $872 billion in goods and services last year. Canada crude imports equal nearly 20% of total U.S. petroleum consumption. And then we've got the whole lumber market that's impacted by all of that. Big issue. It's this even mentioned hockey sticks, right? But it's a whole lot more than you might think of it's going on, right? Dominant foreign source of aluminum for U.S. smelting. And now that's all going to get hit with their 50% tariff as well. So I think this one's got to get figured out, because we're all, my gut says we're going to feel this a little bit more than others.
Mm-hmm. And I think it's 15%, right? What is the tariff rate? Is it 50?
No, they came 50. They came back and said 50. We're hitting you straight on.
The Chinese one is 15. Okay, yeah.
Yep. Right. So it's an interesting piece that's going to need to be happening. The last thing that this article talked about, it says AI power. Canada has it. It said artificial intelligence is driving a surge in electricity demand. Canada supplied 85% of U.S. electricity imports. So not 85% of electricity, but of what came in from another country. It was 85% of it came from Canada. And a big part of that is going to hydroelectric. It says that the country needs to double the capacity of its electricity grid by 2050 through major hydroelectric and nuclear projects. And they're going to get any power now that's coming in is getting the big squeeze on it. So it's going to be interesting. I think this one might be one that needs to get negotiated much quicker. I'm sure the president is probably saying, don't worry about it. It's not having the impact, but clearly it will be. So why don't we dive down, Tom, into there's just quickly in our supply chain area, there is an interesting thing. And we won't spend much time for this, but again, if you don't get our newsletter and you would like to, it's what we were referring to today with our newsletter. It's called Around the Horn and Wholesale Distribution and Manufacturing. You can get that at www.aroundthehornpod.com. You can certainly let us know at hello@leadsmarttech.com, or certainly just look for it on LinkedIn and find that newsletter there and subscribe. It'll come to your mailbox every Friday morning. Next year, we're probably going to be doing some special updates more than once a week to it as well. But two things kind of happening right now that are going to be significantly impacting the Panama Canal. You've got the drought that's going on there already. There can only take certain types of ships, I should say. Now they've put an opportunity where you can auction, basically move into the front of the line to get through. They said the auction last week hit a record 5.3 million. So somebody said, look, it's slower to get through there now because the water is lower and not as many ships can get through. And I'm going to pay to go to the front of the line.
Well, that's why they have the auction, right? You pay, they have the auction to see if you want to go to the front of the line, right?
It's basically over $1 million increase. Now, you start thinking about that, right? Depending on what's coming through there, you've got $5.3 million added to the cost of goods. And now if you're having something that's going to go through the Panama Canal that's coming from China or wherever, looking to get to Europe through there or whatever, whatever it might be, is you have to be thinking about if those goods are going through there, the per container price is going to go up significantly for manufacturer, right? If you're looking for speed, it's going to trickle down all the way across the board. So, and
yeah, but if we raise rates a quarter point, none of it will matter. It'll all take care of itself.
That's good. Okay, very good. So there's in follow up to that, there's an article from Forbes that's talking about what the super El Nino that's poised to be hitting us is going to have as well. So did you get a look at that?
I did. I've actually been, and I won't get into it now, but really trying to understand a little bit more about the overall impact or potential impact of this quote unquote super El Nino that's coming. And one of the biggest things is increased water levels, right? Because what happens is the winds shift and they blow the other direction, and literally like a hurricane blows the ocean and changes the water level from the east coast of Asia to the west coast of North and South America that are here. And they're talking about there could even be real impact in harbors and all of that kind of stuff on how they operate, not just in the Panama Canal, but even where we are. So
yep. Well, they're talking about two in this article, right? There's a couple. Go ahead, sorry.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to say the article, just a couple of sound bites from it that I caught was, and it's interesting, right? Because I would say I would love to see a true smattering of, and we have access to this through the software that we use for managing the podcast and simulcast, but I'd like to kind of look and see if we can narrow down. I know we can look by country. If we can narrow down to I'll just say West Coast listeners, but obviously the vast majority of the people that are either watching with us today or listening on the recorded podcast later aren't here in California, specifically Southern California. We've born and raised, both of us, in Long Beach. Fun fact here, Tom and I were born in the same hospital, roughly 7 months apart and 6.5 months apart. And we've spent, I don't want to say our whole life, but let's say most of our adult life listening about El Nino. El Nino's coming. El Nino's coming. And quite often it is a big, what do they call a nothing burger, right? Comes out of it. Maybe we get a little more rain. I think, I don't know, I won't speak for you, but when we were in our, I would say probably mid-20s to mid-40s, both of us, I was paying it to, we both snow skied a ton. The year that I met my wife, I stayed single a lot longer than you did. The year I met my wife, I skied 25 days in 3 countries and raced sailboats in 3 states. I raced sailboats 60 days in 3 different countries that year. So we were both pretty active. I paid attention to the El Ninos because 1, I was a manufacturer's rep and I sold rainwear. And 2, I wanted to see how much snow was going to be in the Sierras and our local mountains. From that, now I'm paying attention to what's it going to do to the impact on supply chains and so forth at this stage in my career. But This is now saying there is a 90% chance, the U.S. National Weather Service forecasting that event, with 69%, why not just say 70, right? It will be the strongest on record since 1950. The discussion is that there could be $84 trillion in economic damage over from El Nino cycles over the 21st century. So not just this one, but overall. And says the increase in oil and gas prices compared to a year ago, driven by ongoing geopolitical tension and reduced system slack and movement of ships, could be up 30%. So there is a big impact other than just getting a little bit of rain coming through this.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So
no, there's a lot.
obviously,
There's a lot going on. If you the rain is just one element, right? One effect of the whole thing, but it's not. It's not just, oh, there's some warmer water, so we'll have more rain, right? As I said before, sea levels actually rise. We've had higher sea levels anyway, slightly, but now you have the wind pushing the water, and sea level could rise 6, 7, 8 a foot in some cases on the West Coast here, right? What does that do to a harbor? What does that do to a whole lot of other things? Not to mention just the storms and everything else that I'm sure have an impact in how everything comes and goes out of a large harbor.
Well, all I needed to rise is 500 feet, and I'm oceanfront.
There you go. Well,
I live on a hill, so
you never know.
Hey, we could have the earthquake that cuts us off too.
Right.
Kind of though, in closing on that, I guess what we'll know about it is we're recording these shows. If you look out behind me, you're looking, if I remember correctly, in your home office that you're at today, right in front of you is windows, right? And right behind me is windows. So we'll see what happens in coming shows, because we're just a few months away from the likelihood of this happening. So it'll be interesting to watch. But if you stop and think about it, if you want to apply this back to supply chain before we move on, one final comment is that the 2 ports in Long Beach in LA, right? They're just combined, they're just separated by a man-made spit of land. Combined, they're the 3rd busiest port in the world. Right? San Diego is where a huge amount of produce comes in from Latin America for the West Coast, and I'd say the Southwest. And then the amount of cars that comes through the port of San Diego is astounding. So we could have major port impact from some of this as well. So something to be paid attention to. Come back each Friday. We'll keep you posted and updated.
Mark, we'll
on
keep
that,
you posted on the chaos, right? We'll make
right.
sense of the chaos.
All right. So before we kind of pop into our AI section, just real quick, Tom, just in our manufacturing, distribution, and M&A section of the newsletter we discuss every week, our friends, great customers, but good friends as well at APR Supply in Pennsylvania, just completed another acquisition. They announced the acquisition of Mutual Wholesalers, and which is a PVF company, which is really great. They're in West Virginia. They'd been announced that they were doing it, but they finalized it all right now. And that expands a footprint for our friends at APR, but actually a little bit more of shift into the PVF market, which they don't do as much in the other places that they cover. So Scott Weaver and your team, congratulations on that. So always love to plug our partners and customers where possible, right?
Yep. Congratulations.
Good. Tom, let's slide down into our AI section and spend the time we have left today kind of in that arena. So Mr. Gates, been a little bit, had a little bit of a dark cloud over his head the last few years. But he's come out and talked about there is no plan for the upheaval that AI will cause. He didn't say could cause, he said will cause, which I thought was interesting. Should we unpack this a little bit and talk about this a little bit?
Yeah, he wrote a whole essay or a whole paper on this. This wasn't just a tweet or something like that. This was a whole essay in paper on this. And, basically what he's saying is the upheaval that will occur to knowledge workers and, people, white collar workers, but as well as blue collar workers with physical AI and robotics and so forth, will be so turbulent and so basically massive, right? And that nobody is preparing for it, right? The government's not preparing for it. The businesses are not preparing for it. The general population's not preparing for it. And basically, he's saying that we got to get our act together and prepare for this massive upheaval that's there. Is that basically what you read out of it?
Yeah, I think so. I think he's in Dario from Anthropic's camp, right, about the potential, the doom and gloom from it. I just think it's kind of interesting as we look at this is, I don't know the best way to. He's talking about it from a humanity standpoint. From that, looking at it, basically talking about, he talked about we're source of injustice, displacing workers across white and blue collar industries. I just think if we were to really take a good look at this, Tom, what we're really seeing with this is, and I think what's starting to prove true, right? The statistics don't support the job loss. History would suggest that it's going to create more jobs, but different jobs. Our friend Dirk Beveridge talked about this a little bit last week on the show, about the displacement on our people. Do they have a good plan in place for this as well? And so I think we're starting to see this shake out a little bit, and maybe because we're so early in the game, maybe what he's talking about we do see a little bit later. But my gut kind of feels right now like there's some really good opportunities, specifically if we think about wholesale distribution and both in manufacturing, right? Yes, are we going to see dramatically more both stationary robots in business and manufacturing, and then both in manufacturing and distribution, dramatically more humanoid robots? We have an article later in there we can mention briefly about some of the advancements about there was a big robotics event in China last week where you were seeing 100-yard dash type things and races, but they were also now showing humanoid robots being able to plug and unplug things, and the dexterity is getting better. So are we going to see a lot of that? Yes, but it's still going to take people to oversee and manage all of that as well.
Yeah, so it's a lot to talk about, and I'll try and keep it succinct.
Okay.
Right? At least from the fact is that despite all of the doomers, right, and saying that we're going to lose, huge amounts of jobs, even by now, right, by 26, 27, 28, is in fact, that has not occurred, right? Significant job loss has not occurred due to AI. There are actually more engineers, software engineers being hired now than ever. And if you were to look at probably the biggest impact that AI has had from a business perspective is on coding, right? So the engineer is going to go away. In fact, I was talking to my doctor yesterday or the day before, whose son just graduated from Georgia Tech with a computer science degree. And he's like, I don't know if he's going to be able to get a job. And, AI is going to take all the software engineers. It's like, let me see his resume. Just make sure that on his resume, he talks about how he uses AI, and he will get a job, right? He'll get a job quickly. So it's where we are right now. It hasn't been a fit, or hasn't been the case right now. I was talking with another friend, we were reminiscing about.
You have friends besides me. You have friends besides me and Matt, your neighbor?
One or two, yeah.
You don't need any more.
I know. We were reminiscing about sort of, technological history, right? And I don't know if you remember back in the day, the Commodore 64 and some of these early computers that.
That's what I learned to code on.
Radio Shack, the TRS-80, and and then even getting into the early stages of PCs, right? I think that's where we are in the AI journey. We're at that stage in the evolution of AI that we were back in the sort of personal computer, productivity side of things. And I don't think most people can really look ahead even 10 years and be thinking about what are some of the potential capabilities that AI could bring to the table, right?
Okay.
So, and even I'll say that even for myself, right? It's like you have to really stretch to be thinking about, because I hear people all the time say, well, AI, okay, we've got it, it's done. It's not going to improve much. It's going to pretty much stay the same. We have Claude and OpenAI, and we're going to have our chats and all that stuff. And it's just like I said, well, if you believe that we're at the Commodore 64 level or early stages of those, yeah, I agree. Tom says I love those old computers. I have a lot of good stories about those old computers, which I'll save for another day. But yeah, if you remember, they had like the 3.25 or 5.25 floppy drive. I think it
Sure.
held like 500K or something on it. Those types. Anyway, if you believe that we are in that early innings of this, and that it's really hard to look ahead and see what it's going to look like even in the fifth, sixth, seventh inning, not to mention the ninth inning of this, then it's hard to say, right? But as far as will it really be the turmoil, I believe that's the word, or turbulence that Gates is saying that's coming.
Yeah.
And I would love for somebody to spell it out, not just throw the doom and gloom, but actually spell it out with the logic and the time frame and what they believe will occur in that time frame that will create that level of disruption. But we're not
Mhm.
seeing that right now in our current stage of things. Well, that was relatively succinct. Just,
The succinct is not what a diatribe is,
yeah.
but I think very well said. There was a comment made here that says, "Can we really apply historical models to something like AI?" I would say it's a valid question. I would say I think you have to, because when you look at it from that lens, if you just go back, what, 30 years roughly, which was the last time we had an event like this, right? Could you say that about the internet, right? We said
Sure.
exactly, people said the exact same doom and gloom
Sure.
about the internet, right? And then prior to that, it was computers. And prior to that, I don't remember what the one was before the assembly line, right? But we kind of take it all back, traditionally or historically, as you would look at this argument that says, well, when Henry Ford invented the assembly line, people said, oh my gosh, everybody's going to lose their job. And what happened? We had this huge shift of upward job creation because more and more people were using assembly lines to do more and produce more. And the same thing has happened each time, and we haven't seen that fall off in jobs. I think it's, though, Tom, it's really relevant to look at the state of technology right now in industrial distribution. And I will acknowledge that I'm jaded and I'm biased in my discussion here. But I travel the country, other countries as well, and I'm at the events, and I'm on the phone every day with distributors and manufacturers. And what I'm seeing out there right now is nobody's losing their job, right? No, I have yet to meet someone who is an owner of a distribution or manufacturing company that's saying, man, myself or our board, we're looking at headcount reduction, and how can we use AI to reduce headcount. The discussions I'm having with people is, how can we use AI? We mentioned one of them earlier, the owner of APR Supply, and I have this discussion every time we see each other or we talk, is how can I use AI to make my people better and accelerate the growth of our business, to serve our customers better and understand our business better? What's new, Kevin? What new AI tools does LeadSmart have to help us make our people and our company better? Not how can I replace people? Now, it may be that through this accelerated growth, they don't need as many people for some lower level tasks because they're able to automate that. But that doesn't mean they will have that many fewer people. They'll use people and make their people even better in most instances by increasing the skills. Something happened earlier this week that was just astounding, that I think really speaks to this. Our platform partner for the tools that we built through our Meridian 360 Enterprise Growth Platform and our Channel Cloud CRM solution that we have at LeadSmart. Our platform partner and development partner is Salesforce, the biggest company in the world at CRM. They're basically one of 400 companies globally, 400 or 500 companies globally. They allow to build software on their platform. We happen to be their partner for distribution and manufacturing. They're the biggest and the best in the world at what they do globally, across the broad spectrum of users. What did they announce earlier this week, actually on Wednesday, at their earnings call? Their deep integration and deep partnership with Anthropic, which is Claude, which is the largest, most widely used now AI tool in the world, arguably the most advanced, if not right there with OpenAI. And now they have a tool called Claude Force. What is Claude Force going to do? It's going to allow somebody to, by asking a simple question, be able to get more data that they've ever been able to access. Your team has already been building some of those tools into our solutions. We're going to be bringing Claude Force into our system in the not too distant future. But my point is that order entry person that at a distributor, that maybe their company bought an order entry AI tool and they're buying other point AI products, they're going to need less point AI products because of tools like Claude Force, right, in this setting, some of the things that you and your team are building for us. But now all of a sudden, that person that maybe didn't graduate from high school, but got a job working in the warehouse, and then now is working in customer service or whatever it might be, these types of tools, and I'll really say, if you're a LeadSmart Channel Cloud user and you have the tools you've already built with our Genius Feed and those types of things, but now we pull something like Claude Force in, right in the same software that they use every day to track issues at customers or whatever it is, they can ask any question they want to get this depth of understanding. These types of tools now, Tom, and I know I'm soapboxing a little bit here, and I'll stop, but now we're elevating people, right? We're making those people better.
Sure.
Will we need as many of them in the future? Probably not. But those people can be getting reskilled to use tools like I just described to when they find the next job, or maybe they find the next job with the same company who has just opened a new branch and needs somebody there.
Yeah,
I just jumped off my soapbox.
Okay, I mean, what you're basically saying, I'll cliff note it here for you, right? What you're basically saying is, hey, there's, we have systems of record like LeadSmart and
right.
CRM and so forth, and ERP. Right?
ERP,
the
sure.
ability to leverage those systems of record in a much more meaningful, productive, and intelligent way, right? Compared to, hey, running a couple reports, which is basically the only way you could leverage a system of record before is run some report or maybe a BI tool or some
sure.
dashboards or things like that. But you really didn't get the insights and the strategy and so forth. So the ability to leverage systems of record continues to go up, right? And yes, if there's a way to enable them, enable our people, and that's what we're doing a lot with, to leverage the system of record better, to do a better job and to be able to grow and increase growth and so forth. I mean, if you could argue that says, hey, we've got a 5-person inside sales team. Why don't we become a 10-person inside sales team? Because there's so much more we can do with that 10 people, right? Again, there's a lot of arguments that go into saying that, hey, if you get more capability, then maybe we need to add more people in to take advantage of those capabilities. So, right, as I have something, how do I get more out of it? But I do think I would like to see more of, from the doomers, right? From the Bill Gates and from the Darios or whatever.
Darios, sure.
Yeah, I would love to understand in their mind the timelines, the events, the capabilities, the things that they believe that will really create that turmoil, right?
Yep.
Versus maybe these blanket statements that are, I do believe, I'm not saying they're impossible. I just think that they have to be framed with some context, which is time, place, form, and event, right? Not
Mhm.
not this just generic statements that are being made.
Yes. Yeah.
All right,
Tie it to
I'm
something. No, I was just going to say tie it to something tangible, right?
right.
In that setting, right?
Why
Tie it
why
to
do you
something.
believe this? Why do you believe this?
Right.
When do you think this will occur? Where are we at relative to that? Right. Again, if you just
And
look at the data in present time, it's not showing those things.
now I don't have anything to base because I haven't researched it enough. If Bill Gates, there's something behind his thinking and reasoning that's self-serving. When you see, I can't remember his last name, Dario's, how most people reference him, the founder of Anthropic with his sister, and you can look back at history and tie all of his major um, announcements about the doom and gloom are all somehow tied to him getting press as they're raising more money.
So
And
he's
and
also
all,
trying to dictate the governance and the
sure,
and be
exactly right. That's where I was
the
headed next, right?
right, right,
He
right.
well, then we won't go too deep into the technology side of that, but there's to your point, I was going to say the same thing, right? We have closed LLMs, which is OpenAI's ChatGPT, Claude, those types of tools. And then there are all these open source tools that are being built, Meta's Llama, the Chinese models are very, very low cost in comparison, and they're open source. And a lot of these announcements and the doom and gloom are not just tied to the fundraising with the folks at Claude. I was just promoting them and their partnership with Salesforce and the benefit, but we use Claude, throughout our entire organization. Everybody in our company uses Claude daily, from that standpoint. But that doom and gloom that he's doing is really trying to get the U.S. government to put guardrails on. No, you need closed systems, not open source systems. If there's guardrails that say no open source systems, then it starts to create a duopoly, at least, likely maybe a triopoly at that standpoint, but it protects them from the outside models. So probably way more than this audience cares about regarding open and closed source models. I will have you notice, though, it was the non-technical guy that was able to explain that,
So eloquently too.
if I may say so myself.
That's, if you may say so yourself, yes.
Yeah, good. So a handful of other good articles. There's a couple of security articles in there. There's in our section on AI and technology. If we scroll down, Tom, to and by the way, the inside there's an article about things about I'm sorry, real quickly, about manufacturers needing to know about physical AI. We talk nonstop, right, about the models that we're using in AI, but there's that whole secondary world. Alex Chasovsky commented about this, that the physical AI world may drive more economic benefits than the traditional AI models, right? And the software related tools that we're using. And the physical side of it is what's controlling our robots, right? I go back to that simple example that I've used over and over again, right? Is the humanoid robot that's at a distribution center that, when it's done moving and loading all of the boxes that need to go out tomorrow and having them stacked ready for the drivers to go out, and it's done mopping the floor with its sensors that can see where the dust and the grime and the slips and the fall trip hazards are. It goes outside and it counts stacks of pipe or stacks of lumber and updates the ERP inventory system and so forth. So as we get to that place, if you were to talk to Elon Musk, his take on things is that every human will have multiple humanoid robots assisting them in life, right? So I talk all the time, Tom, about wanting a humanoid robot at my house, right? I think I am going to end up having to eat my words on the 18 to 24 month time frame, because we're probably 6 or 8 months into that statement. But I don't envision, like, if everybody has 2 of them, that means in my household there would be 4 robots. That's a crowded house.
It's a crowded house, yep.
So maybe there's one in the seat next to me that comes to work with me and takes care of things here.
Yeah, one that drives my Tesla. I guess I wouldn't need a Tesla. I could just use my current car and have the robot drive my current car. Maybe that's the answer. I got to think more about that. All right, let's move on here.
You're buying a Tesla.
Just
Yeah, we're buying a Tesla. You know what? I just saw a comment in there too, talking about the doom and gloom of the world. Great example. Tom Harvick. Bravo, Tom. What about Y2K? Right?
yeah.
That was a nothing burger too, right?
That was a big non-event. Yeah.
Well, wait, but before we pass the Y2K thing, I didn't make any money off Y2K. I think you made a lot.
The company I worked with made a lot. Yes.
Yes. I think it was your company though, right?
No, I was still working for another company right around there.
Oh, you were? I thought you had already started.
Yeah, I guess we had already started some, but yes, we were doing some consulting with another company that was a software company that was very. Anyway, Y2K, I can tell some good stories about that.
So back to my statement is you made a good chunk of money.
Yes, during that time. Yes.
I was busy worrying about like Tesla money, right? You could buy a Tesla from that money, right? You could buy a Tesla.
Yes, maybe.
Yeah. Yes. So, anyways, I'm just going to keep going back till we have a picture of you and your Tesla to share with our guests. Hey, my friend, I think we've got some additional articles there. There's that robotics article in our technology, cybersecurity, and robotics segment. Sales and marketing segment of our newsletter today had a few good articles as well. Again, if you don't get the newsletter, let us know. It's a good article too. That was in industrial distribution. I can tell you, they've been stepping up their game recently with some of the articles that they've been posting. Much higher quality, but just more and better. It's a sales article. It's in our sales and marketing e-commerce section about the sale you lost before your rep knew it existed, and some things that we should be writing some articles about based on some of the things that our technology can uncover with business that you didn't know you were losing or didn't know you had available to you. So anyways, we have our people in leadership segment. We have our industry scuttlebutt section each week and our people on the move section as well. So if you don't get that newsletter, we would love to get it out to you. The more, the merrier. We're trying to get better at it as we go each week. So Tom, anything as we wind down today you want to add?
No, there was a lot in that newsletter. We barely scratched the surface. So.
Well, at least we didn't spend an hour in the economy.
I think we did spend an hour in the economy.
No, not quite. I got us out of there beforehand to go talk about
like
technology.
About 53 minutes. We only spent 53 minutes.
No, because what you missed is we went into the supply chain. So remember
have a good weekend, Bob. We spent way too long talking about my Tesla and your car and all that stuff.
No. We didn't talk about my car. I just said I bought one. We were talking a lot about the Tesla because I was trying to bait you into saying that you would in fact follow through on the commitment that you made to Mrs. Brown and I. So, right?
I told you probably.
That is not an answer. Probably is.
Okay.
I would never accept that from my kids. So,
okay.
Anyways, what's happening this weekend for you?
Just getting ready to be out of town for a little bit. So got quite a bit of things to get caught up on.
Off to Lake Tahoe next week. I'm excited. Look forward to seeing the pictures. I will hold down the fort while you're gone. Happy to see. And then you're going to be on the East Coast for a bit too soon, right?
Middle of the month, yeah.
Okay, very good. Looking forward to that as well. I don't know who LinkedIn user, but they said 48 minutes, I guess, was where we were, right?
Yeah. Okay.
All right. I'd like to know who that is. We don't see it on our notes here. We just see LinkedIn users.
I think what we need to do is I think we need to rotate around, right? Some weeks let's start in the AI section or the sales and marketing section and work our way back. We need to be an equal opportunity, show here, and we're not giving equal opportunity to the other sections.
It's an interesting thought. What went through my mind though is we went for probably up until about a year ago, maybe a year and a half ago, the first few years of the show, we spent almost exclusively on AI, right? 60, 70%, maybe 80% of the show was AI. Now AI is kind of simmering out there, but all these economic things are having out there. And look, we're going to be contacted before long by Harvard wanting to give us honorary doctorates in economics or Stanford, one of the two. I mean, it's got to be happening soon.
Yeah, I'm just waiting for that phone call.
Yeah,
that's what I'll be
good.
doing this weekend, waiting for that.
I have been fighting a bug all week, but I have been here plowing through it. I am going to get out of here today by about 4 and go get some rest because we have a fun dinner party tomorrow night with some good friends. I'm going to do a reverse sear tri-tip and the smoker and the grill, and we're going to enjoy a bonfire in the backyard tomorrow night after maybe even a little beach time first. So Sunday, I will tell you, I will be in the water. What I missed to saying about when you were talking about El Nino is the sharks. The water's warmer up here, and we've got hammerheads in Laguna Beach last week, which we never see, north of you don't see much of north of the border.
And
typically.
they have record number of stingrays. Number of stingrays.
That's already happening now. So literally now that the hammerhead they saw right off the beach that we're going to go to on Sunday was almost a mile offshore, but that just happened to be where he was feeding at the moment.
Sure.
And if there's one, there's probably more. So if I'm not, so we're off next week, but if the week after, if I'm not here, you know what? I took off on a wave and bumped into some unexpected friend. So
yeah, I don't think the poly market's too high on that one, so I don't think you have too much to worry about.
I'm appreciative of that, but I was in the water in Laguna on last Sunday and plan to be back in the water doing some body surfing on Sunday. So, all right, everybody, no one cares about me getting in the water on Sunday is what Tom's getting ready to tell me. So thanks for coming. Here we are, 203 times we've done this. Couldn't do it without you. We just ask the one favor of everybody. If you like what you're hearing, get on Apple in particular is the best benefit to us, Apple and YouTube. Even if you listen live on LinkedIn every week, pop over to YouTube, hit the subscribe button on the show. Apple, even more beneficial to us because it gets those algorithms moving. YouTube and Apple are the two big algorithms that help us to get this out more people in more countries, which would be exciting. We're right now we're top 2 globally in wholesale distribution. We should very soon be number 1. And we want to cross that milestone, and you can help us if you like what we talk about each week. So anyways, we'll wish everybody a wonderful weekend. We'll see you 2 weeks from today. Again, same bat channel, as they used to say, same bat time. Thanks for being with us. We'll wish everybody a great weekend. Be kind, be safe, and do good things.